The president is not unfit.
So why is he not the nominee right now?
Because he did something that Donald Trump cannot comprehend, which is to put his ego aside.
Welcome back to the DeVory Darkins show. In this video, we're going to be responding to this clash between Fox News host Lawrence Jones and Pete Buttigieg, which is the Secretary of Transportation. Now, understand who Pete Buttigieg is. He originally was trying to run for president back in 2019. He was not successful in that. That's number one. Number two, he's absolutely a propaganda puppet for the Democratic Party. He is not going to say anything damaging to Kamala Harris, let alone President Biden, after the damage this administration has done to everyday Americans. So before we go any further, let's watch a masterclass on gaslighting from the Secretary of Transportation. Roll it.
About the record of the Biden-Harris administration. When you look at inflation, it's up 19.4%. When you look at the southern border, it's 8.1 encounters. When you look at crime, violent crime across 66 major cities, it's up almost 10% at 9.6%. Is that a record that you can run on?
Well, certainly the Biden-Harris record of bringing crime down compared to why crime went up under Donald Trump. And I often wonder, whether viewers of this network are aware that violent crime went up under Donald Trump. I think that deserves more coverage so we can ask ourselves why. And some of that has to do with policy, but some of that has to do with the message we send. When you have Donald Trump, an unrepentant convicted criminal,
here we go,
running against a prosecutor like Kamala Harris, we have an opportunity to send a message about whether we're serious on law and order in this country or whether it's a talking point, whether it's just something people try to use as a political theme for partisan gain. You want to talk about inflation? Inflation went up in every country after COVID, but we brought inflation down in this country. Of course, the most important question.
Oh my God. Of course, this is what we're dealing with when we talk about the Democratic Party. They are professional gaslighters. They are not the party that can say two things are true at the same time. It is true that we wrecked the economy and caused the highest inflation since 1940. And it's also true that we brought the inflation rate down. But Americans are still struggling. They can't do that. They have to say something that's only going to look best for them so they can get reelected. That's number one. Number two, this whole crime talking point that crime was higher under Trump. Okay, but let's just really look at the numbers here. Okay, so let's just take a look at the chart. Is it true that crime went up under Donald Trump? No. Is it true that crime in 1 year went up under Donald Trump? Yes. But why was that? It happened because of COVID. This was in 2020. When you're talking about the George Floyd riots, when you're talking about COVID and how much depression and crime went up because of it, this is why you had that in 2020. So obviously they're not going to tell the full story. And if we want to zoom out and look at the overall crime rate, all we have to do is see this. Back in Obama's administration, he was at 397. And then it starts to lower under Trump. And so the overall point here is crime is down overall since the 1990s, right? But again, they're not going to say that. They're using it as a talking point.
Back to you, Mr. Secretary. The people that are being killed in places all over the country, they look like me, they don't look like you. And they're upset with the Democratic Party not taking it seriously. You guys sent the cavalry
Not taking it seriously.
Hold on, let me finish. You guys sent the cavalry. You guys sent the cavalry in for you guys for your protection. But the people of Chicago don't see that on a day-to-day basis. What are you guys going to do to stop the bloodshed in our community?
Well, first of all, I was mayor of a city that faced that kind of pain. The toughest part of the job was dealing with gun violence, and the most heartbreaking part of the job was comforting or trying to comfort mothers who just wanted their child back. And the big question, I think, for politics, for policy, for media, is who is going to help them versus who is going to use them.
Answer the question.
The questions she's asking are the exact question any citizen should be asking, which is when you take office.
What do you mean?
Are you going to keep your promises?
Are you saying that mother is being used?
I'm saying that mother is asking the exact right question. And the question is, what are you going to actually do when you come into office? Now, we're getting a lot of people speaking up about...
Just tell me what you guys are...
I'll tell you exactly what we're going to do.
What you've done to stop the bloodshed.
Actually confront gun violence. 90% of Americans, more than 80% of Republicans, think we ought to at least be doing universal background checks. But Donald Trump says no. The Republican Party...
I'm sorry, I have to pause this, guys. They can't even answer the question. This is the Democratic playbook right here on how to answer questions that involve policy, right? They're not going to answer those questions like straight on, okay? So what the Fox News host Lawrence Jones is getting at is that you guys decide to bring the DNC to an area that has been damaged by crime, Chicago, and clearly is being overrun by migrants, and the resources are being diverted to migrants, and the citizens are not happy. That's where he's getting at. And of course, the Secretary of Transportation, he's not going to be able to answer that question. That's not even in his wheelhouse. And quite frankly, you know, we can't expect anything better from them as it pertains to crime, because remember, Democrats are all about, we need to take guns away. And Republicans are all about, no, we can keep guns, but we just have to make it a common sense policy. And I've already had videos on this where the more regulation you have around firearms or around pretty much anything in this country, the more damage that it will end up doing to everyday Americans. So obviously that's a whole nother video. I digress. But this guy, he's so far removed. It's so disingenuous for the DNC to go to Chicago, like pretty much secure the thing like it's some fortress. But where is that type of resource? Where is that type of security? Where is that type of funding to do things like that for Chicago? And the person they really should be talking to is Mayor Brandon Johnson. Now, you know, we got to pull up the numbers. We got to provide the receipts, because a lot of people go on YouTube and they say a lot of stuff but don't provide any receipts, especially the Democrats. So let's look at the numbers from the police department in Chicago. All I want you to do is focus on the bottom right corner of the screen. The last three columns are how much has it changed in 2 years, how much has it changed in 3 years, and how much has it changed in 4 years. Let's just do 4 years, okay? 4 years, because that represents the current administration. It represents the Democrats who have governed Chicago, like Lori Lightfoot and Brandon Johnson. And look at this. In a 4-year period, it's a 53% increase in crime. In crime. Total. All crime. All crime. 53% increase.
Talk about assault weapons, something that made a difference when that assault weapons ban contributed to the reduction in crime. I remember coming to Chicago as a kid. And by the way, even though some media only want to talk about the worst and most painful things that go on in our city, Chicago is a proud city. Chicago is an extraordinary city. But I do remember coming here when crime and murder was off the charts, and the work that went on to bring it down from those levels that we saw in the past, the work that's going on to save lives right now is something that deserves the backing.
There was over 20 people shot last week. 5 people shot over the weekend.
Then why would we elect leaders who won't do anything about gun violence?
Well, it's the Democrats that run the city. Name the Republican that's in charge.
All right, but this is really important, right?
No, tell me.
I will tell you.
One Republican in charge of Chicago.
Well, hold on.
Name them.
Listen to me, because not only did we have those levels of crime under Democratic and Republican leaders, right? But if you'll try to cherry pick this for partisan purposes, you want to play that game?
It's not partisan.
We can talk about how.
They look like me, not you.
Yeah, and so is the case in Boston, where there is a much lower murder rate, and also a Democratic mayor. We could talk about how the murder rate in Mississippi.
Yeah, but where he's getting at, I already know what Lawrence Jones is talking about, because I've looked it up for myself. If you look at the top 10 cities with the highest crime, cities that are known to be dangerous to move to, out of the 10, 8 of them are Democrat run. 1 is Republican, 1 is independent. What does that tell you? If you do the opposite approach, which is what are the 10 safest cities, 6 are Republican, 3 are independent, and then 1 is Democrat. What does that say? And I would say my biggest criticism of the Democratic Party is what they accuse the Republicans or conservatives or Trump supporters of being is exactly who they are. The best way to show that to you is by listening to their supporters.
If I had my choice, in my perfect world, every Republican is out of the country and all the immigrants come in. That's what I want. It's never going to happen. That's what I want.
But we're all immigrants. We all came from somewhere else.
Right. So.
Yeah, I mean, wow, right? Yikes is probably the best word. I mean, they did let the border open. They've allowed tens of millions of people to come over illegally, of course. And they don't want to take any responsibility for that. In fact, they want to switch it around and celebrate it. They want to celebrate that they've allowed all these migrants to come over. They want to celebrate that they are for democracy. But is it a democracy when you stage a coup against the sitting president of the United States? Which is what CNN Jake Tapper pointed out.
And I know that it was very difficult for him. That's been made very clear by some of his top aides like Anita Dunn and Ron Klain. And there does seem to be, even though Anita Dunn said earlier today, quote, nobody wants to have a fight with Nancy Pelosi at this time, unquote, it does seem like there's some residual bad blood or resentment. And I'm wondering if you've spoken to him and what your response is to that.
Sometimes you just have to take a punch for the children.
And that's what you're doing right now? You're just going to take the punch for the children?
Who's punching right now?
I don't know.
Anita Dunn said...
I didn't even hear this. I'm just hearing.
It was an interview with me.
Maybe he's throwing the punch. I don't know.
No.
I'm not. I would never. But
she
Anita
said she doesn't want to fight.
Nobody wants to have a fight with Nancy Pelosi at this time.
Well, you know what?
Have you talked
I
to him?
have
Is
to
my
do
only
what I have to do.
Right.
He made the decision for the country. My concern was not about the president. It was about his campaign.
Yeah, so you guys seen that, right? And she's obviously not going to feed into that narrative because she knows it's not a good look for the Democratic Party, but he did not decide to drop out. They forced him out. I mean, this is the type of people that they are, okay? So they accuse Trump or Republicans of trying to be a threat to the country and they're going to destroy the country. But last time I checked, the policies that have destroyed this country have been these democratic policies, right, that the progressive left have absolutely taken a lead on. And we've seen what it's done to our country. So as I wrap up this video, I really just have a couple of points for you guys. It's funny that what the Democrats will do is they will actually take what is their weakness and they will celebrate it as a strength. In other words, they're really good at gaslighting, right? They say that the inflation rate is lower than it's been. They say that there hasn't been that many crossings over the border, even lower than Trump. I mean, this is what they do. The second thing is they clearly forced Joe Biden out of the race because he wasn't supposed to run in the first place. So when he did announce that he was running again, they were obviously caught off guard. That's not what they truly wanted. I say this all the time. If Democrats could go back 3 years ago, they wouldn't be in this position. Kamala Harris would not be the candidate. They would be putting someone else who's been preparing, who's been vetted. They obviously don't want to be in this position, but they're doing the best that they can with what they have. And three, at the end of the day, they're still at a disadvantage. They are going to lose on policy. When we're talking about the economy, inflation, immigration, crime, and safety, they will lose on that because of what's happened over the last 3.5 years. So all we have to do and all Trump really has to do is focus on that. That's my mindset. What about you? What do you guys think about the fact that Pete Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation, clearly doesn't know what he's talking about and has no answer for the crime in a city like Chicago because he's obviously not going to criticize Mayor Brandon Johnson, who is a puppet for the Democratic Party? And what did you think about the hypocrisy, the gaslighting, even the coup that obviously Nancy Pelosi was behind in getting President Biden to drop out of the race and her response to all that? I want to hear what your thoughts are and more in the comments section below. Thank you for checking out the video today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Stay grateful, stay focused, and stay true. Peace.